Hi everybody, my name is Tracey. I'm a librarian here at the Fairborn Community Library, and today I'm going to show you how to make transfers to make your own personalized candles or jars or any other thing that you would like to personalize. So let's get started. I'll show you what we're going to make. So these are just some cute little photo transfers that we can put on pre-made candles, on mason jars, on old spaghetti jars, and even on the plastic fake candles. So let's get started. All we need are a few simple things. Chances are you probably have most of them at home already, if not all of them. First thing you're going to need is the jar that we're going to be putting this on. This can be a spaghetti jar, old rinsed out mason jar, anything like that that's either glass or heavy plastic. Make sure the surface is clean where you're going to be putting your transfer. Also be sure to measure the area where you want your transfer to go. This is really important, and I'll show you why at the end. You can see my mistakes so you don't make them as well. All right, next thing you're going to need is your picture that you're going to use. This is just a sample. These are nice colors to show you some of the techniques on. So the picture that you're going to use to transfer, some packing tape, a pair of scissors, your jar, get that out of the way a little bit, and a bowl of water. This has got one soaking in it, and I'll show you what we're going to do with it here in a minute. First thing we're going to do is we're going to put tape on our picture. This is nothing special. This is just a printout I did here at the library. The only thing is, do not use inkjet printers. It will just make your ink run and smear, and it will not be a very pretty transfer. So make sure you use a laser jet that has toner or something like that. Come to the library and do it. They're 15 cents a page, and you can get a whole bunch on one page. So we got the picture printed. I'm going to tape it down. You can see there's little pieces of tape right here on the ends to make sure it doesn't jump up. Sometimes when you're using the packing tape, it tends to make a static charge and it tries to pull the paper up. And that's not very cool when you're trying to tape stuff down. So this is really loud. I'm sorry. Take your piece of tape and you cover up the image that you want to do. So I'm going to have the egg right here as my picture, as my transfer. So I'm just going to push the tape down. You can see kind of in this light how it's kind of a grayish kind of color to it. What we want to do is make sure all of the adhesive is stuck to the ink. So I'm just going to take my library card. You can use a credit card, driver's license, whatever you have. I suggest you use this instead of a pen or a pair of scissor handles or something like that, because it's less likely to stretch or mar the tape. Sometimes you can do that with harder objects. This seems to have worked the best on all the ones that I've tried. So we're just going to take this and try to push this down as well as we can. Now I'm going to try to show you this on the camera. It's kind of hard to see unless you're in just the right light. But you can kind of see that line from where I was rubbing it down versus where I hadn't rubbed it down yet. You want to try to get this as dark as you can. That means all the adhesive is stuck to the ink, and that's what we want because it's going to pull the ink off the paper here in a minute. So if you just keep rubbing with your card over your picture, see if I can show you some more. You can tell the difference there pretty well. And you want to do that all over so there is completely stuck down. Everything is super dark. You don't have any of these gray bubbles anymore. Got another one over here that I did. This one's a little harder to see, but you can kind of tell right up in here where it's stuck down, just like that. So this is an example of one I was going to do with some love letters and some words and some pictures. So you can do other stuff besides just photos. Next thing you're going to do is cut out your image. Now, I suggest if it's a photo or something like that, you try to cut it as close as you can to the outline of your picture. Like this one, there's not a whole lot of space between the edge of the picture and what was white paper. You just want to make it as close as you can. But for something like this, that'd be really hard since it's got these little roughy edges. So I'm just going to trim it as close as I can. Oops, sorry about that. Just like that. All right, so far, not so hard. This for me has been the hardest part. You take your water, this water I've been using and have other pictures soaking in it. You put your picture that's been stuck down really well with our tape in the water. Now walk away for at least 20 minutes. The longer you can let it soak, the better. I found if you can let it soak for at least an hour, works the best. Then what you're going to do after your time is up, it changes from this solid white to kind of a see-through-y, goopy, gross kind of mess. What you're going to do then is rub all the paper off. The longer you let it set, the easier the paper dissolves and comes off. You want to rub it firmly enough to get the paper off, but not too hard that you rub the ink off. So you may have to do this step a couple times where you soak it, rub the paper off, soak it, rub the paper off, soak it, rub the paper off. Especially if you don't leave it, if you only leave it set for 15 or 20 minutes. All right, so you're going to do that. You're going to rub it, rub it, rub it, rub it until all of that white stuff comes off. Then lay it on some paper towels to dry with the side that had the paper up. If you put the side that you're going to be looking at, the clear side, just tape, if you put it down like this, it will stick to your paper towels and you'll have to start all over again. If you put it down like this with the side that had the paper on up, it won't stick and you'll be able to use it, kind of the point. So lay it down like this to dry on your paper towels. And then once they dry, ooh, they're super sticky, so be careful. You can kind of see where you still have paper and where you are good to go. So you can still see this one still has a little bit of paper. This one has quite a bit of paper still on it. So what I would do, get my bowl back, put it back in the bowl, now that I know where the paper is, and keep rubbing it and rubbing it and rubbing it until all of the paper is off. You want to get as much off of it as you can because that's how it's going to stick to our jar. So this one still has a little bit on it, but we're going to use it anyway. So then you just take your picture, line it up how you want. Hopefully that's somewhat straight. Oops. And then push it down to kind of get it stuck. And then gently use your library card or your credit card or whatever to push it down. Make sure you can see there's a little bit of air bubbles underneath here, kind of. Make sure you get all of those out so it sticks really well. And you're done. You just made a personalized jar. Now, if this is something that's going to be sitting, not being touched a whole lot, like this candle, I would just leave it like it is. It's wonderful. This has been on now for a couple of months, hasn't come off. Had the candle opened, works great. You can see here, I did have a little bit of the white paper still left on it, so you can kind of see it if you don't get it all off, what'll happen. Here are a couple of tips that I learned. Number one, make sure your jar is flat where you're putting your picture. This one is for cookie mix in a jar. I was not careful and did not measure correctly, and you can see that it did not stick very well because of the bumpies in the jar, because the jar was textured. So watch that. Next tip, make sure you measure correctly, because if you don't, you have these little wing things that stick over the edge and it will not stick very well. Your candle will pull apart, your picture will come off, dirt gets under here and it's no good and it won't stick anymore. So make sure you measure the flat part of your candle where you want the picture to be. And either make it that size, or if you make it big enough, get those out of the way, to go clear around the flat spot to another flat place. So as you can tell, this jar is kind of a squarey circle, if that makes sense. And I just made the picture big enough to wrap around more, so it had more to adhere to. Again, this one's been on here now for a couple of months and is looking great. Another tip, watch the color. This was a nice, pretty beeswax candle, and I wanted to put a nice picture of family members on it, and well, she doesn't look so hot now. So watch the colors that you're putting in, otherwise it just doesn't look right. Again, this is another example of what happens if you don't measure correctly. It just doesn't stick, and you can see the white spots where it didn't adhere, where I didn't get all the paper off. So learn from my mistakes, don't do that. Also, make sure you line everything up the way you want so it doesn't look wonky like this one. The pictures are all different sizes, which would be kind of cool if I could have gotten the last one to fit, but I didn't measure correctly. So measure, measure, measure. And if you want it to show up really well, you may have to put, this one I was planning on using as a candy dish, but when I put the candy in, you couldn't see the pictures anymore. So what you're gonna have to do is probably put some paper in around it so they can actually see, get it to go in the jar, see the pictures. Oh, goodness sakes. So you can see there are actually pictures there versus the empty jar where you can't really see them too well. So just watch what you're filling it with to make sure you can see it how you want. But overall, pretty easy craft with some pretty neat results. Not a whole lot of prep work, just getting your pictures printed and measured correctly. And then some packing tape, a little bit of time and water, and you have your own personalized candles. I hope you guys enjoyed this, and we hope to see you soon here at the library. Have a great day.